Get carrots for the reindeer. It's time for Must Have Seen TV, the podcast dedicated to the sitcoms of the 20th century. From I Love Lucy to News Radio, I'm your TV guy, Brett White. And I'm also a senior reporter producer for Decider.com. And say hello to my Nick, Ethan K. Hi, Ethan.
Hello, Brett, and Merry Christmas, although we are December 2nd.
Hey, anytime after Thanksgiving, Black Friday on is Christmas to me. So, which is honestly conservative, because a lot of people, it's like October 1st Christmas. People are crazy like that.
October 1st. October 1st is that means that we're late in putting up the Halloween decorations.
Yeah. So I fully believe in, so you gotta celebrate the holidays in a row. Like, you can't just jump straight to Christmas. But yeah, so we've been on a break partly because of Thanksgiving happened, but also my cat Dolores got a UTI, and I'm telling her business. She doesn't know I'm doing this, and was peeing blood all over the apartment. And so my husband and I had to watch her in shifts just to make sure that she only peed in the 6 spots in our apartment that she was, like, making the rounds to. So that was fun. Yeah. She's fine. She eventually started taking her medicine. She's been fine for like a week. And the vet and everything did not seem at all, was very nonplussed about the peeing blood thing. They were just like, oh yeah, that's fine.
I know. So it's like, okay. I know it doesn't relate to sitcoms, but my cat Fred, also a ginger, he's 1 year old. He had some urinary issues a few weeks back, and along the same lines, the vet said, well, he might pee a little blood, and that's just what happens.
No, yeah, and so like us, we're like freaking out, because it's like, there's no way blood coming out of anywhere is not a good sign. But anyway, that's all fine. But that was an exhausting. That's one place we've been.
What did you do for Thanksgiving? Where were you?
So Seb cooked, and then we had guests of the pod, Ben Regib and Katie Healy-Wurzburg, and Ben's wife, Ellen and son, came over.
Favorite people. My favorite people.
Came over and had a Thanksgiving dinner. What were y'all up to?
For the first week, you remember my friend Nick? He visited from San Diego, and then as soon as he left, we went and visited my parents in Pennsylvania. Had a wonderful Thanksgiving meal. Came home. Literally, I think 3 days later, Megan's dad showed up with the Christmas tree that we bought out in Illinois a couple months ago. And so he just left the other day. The downside is that Megan, my spouse, took the stairs a little too fast, and about halfway down, she kind of slipped and lost her balance, and she broke her toe. So I feel very bad for her for that. I've been taking care of her as best I can. What the best you can do for a broken toe, which is like tape it and
wait.
Yeah, you kind of hope and pray.
It's been an exhausting couple of weeks in terms of so one of the reasons that my life has been so exhausting is Christmas content at work. I'm the self-appointed Christmas reviewer. In line with my job, I would normally only have to cover Netflix Christmas content. But me being you could say merry masochist. I like last year, 2 years ago, I guess this is my 3rd year doing this. I was like, I want to cover as many Hallmark and Lifetime movies as possible, as well as literally every Christmas movie. So I, have my database of over 200 Christmas movies. I have reviewed 31. I think I wrote review number 31 today.
Ooh.
And it is just December 2nd, so I am very tired.
There is a whole month to go.
God. But so I will say, if you're out there watching the Hallmark movies this year, they are actually good, which goes against why I'm doing this, is because I love Christmas movies and bad movies, and usually this is the overlap. But this year, they're Christmas movies, and then they're actual, like, legitimately funny, actually ambitious with their plots. I have actually seen very few big city woman goes back to her small town home, falls in love with the local gym teacher. What, like, I've only seen a couple of those and almost none of them on Hallmark. So it's been very this week I likened 2 different Christmas movies to The Wicker Man. So that's
one of my favorite movies. If you're looking at the podcast on YouTube, I have a Wicker Man tattoo on my arm, and I'm showing it to the camera.
Well, and you'll know this. So there's a movie on Netflix called Christmas on Mistletoe Farm, which I highly do not recommend. It is the worst movie I've seen this year, and it comes from the writer-director lady, Debbie Isbit or something, of the Nativity movies.
Oh,
and we watched
Martin Freeman and David Tennant movie.
Yeah, we watched the David Tennant one at your place. And so I now know. So her magic combination is straight-laced Englishman and then hefty-sized doofus. Because who was the one?
Poppy. Yeah, the
God.
Poppy. He was just an over-exuberant. I don't know. It was kind of like a Muppet, like what, but not like one of the puppet.
Not
Muppets.
A real person, just
one of the walking Muppets.
So like, there's another one in Christmas on Mistletoe Farm, and his name is Beano.
Beano.
Yeah, and he lives in the barn inexplicably. It's awful. It is the worst movie I've seen this year. But it has very Wicker Man vibes, and then
wait, how does it have Wicker Man vibes?
Well, so the whole premise of the movie is this guy's dad, who is estranged from, leaves him his farm where they grow mistletoe that makes people fall in love, but that is not the movie, and they don't actually ever address that. So in order to perfect the pitch for his nebulous job that involves pitching and getting accounts, he decides to take his 5 children, because of course he's a widower, because dead moms have to be in every Christmas movie. He decides to take his 5 kids to the mistletoe farm because that'll be peaceful and he can write, which is a ridiculous idea. And so you spend the first, like, well, it feels like 2 hours, but it's really only half hour. Just him and the kids and Beano at the farm. And then Beano finally takes them into the town to the tavern. And it was really strange because, like, as soon as they open the door and they go into the tavern, I felt this innate, like I have been held hostage and was like, I want to run away with literally anyone else I can get to. Like, I felt this thing of like, let's follow any of these other people. Wherever they go, let's just follow them. Let's just leave the family behind. Oh my God. But then the movie quickly points out, everyone in the town is a Beano. Everyone is insane. Everyone dresses like a cartoon character and like only has one personality trait, and they're all very. And so there's this one shot where the kids are on their bikes and they're trying to get to school and they get lost, and then from over the hill comes a bunch of townspeople, all of them dressed like melted crayons, basically. And they're just because they're all just wearing mismatched bright colors. And it's they all just like wave. And I'm just like, the town is terrifying. This is Midsummer. Like,
I will give you that then. Yes. It doesn't end with someone dying in a flaming Wicker Man, but it should have, and you would have enjoyed it.
And then there's another one called A Fabled Holiday, which is people get drawn to this fictional storybook town where the citizens of the town are ancient fairy tale archetypes who have, over the course of, I guess, why Siri keeps activating literally only when I do podcasts. I need to figure out how to turn Siri off because I don't ever use Siri. Anyway, they're like these medieval archetypes that have just regenerated or like persisted through hundreds of years, and they'll have roles to play, even if like the witch who is there to try and stop them from stopping the humans from progressing in their journey. She doesn't really want to do that anymore, but she's like, this is my role. I have to do this. Like, they are concepts heavier than Hallmark can carry, and it is amazing.
And
it's
ambitious.
And they mostly pull all these off, which is why I'm like, what happened to Hallmark this year?
But you didn't like the Beano
the worst movie I've ever seen. And then Fabled Holiday it's good. It's a good Hallmark movie. The best Hallmark movies. We can move on to actually talk. Well, this is Christmas. It's on topic. Three Wise Men and a Baby and Haul Out the Holly are two of the best Hallmark movies I have ever seen. They're both legitimately funny, and I like. Stephen Tobolowsky is in Haul Out the Holly, playing a character named Ned. And it honestly feels like they just let him improvise all of his lines because they're all these amazing non sequiturs, and it just feels like Hallmark has whoever the new management is that Candace Cameron Bure hates. And they're really just like letting a lot of the actors write the scripts, which is also interesting because nice. Three Wise Men and a Baby was written by one of the actors. And it's like by doing that, like actors, they've all been in like hundreds of these movies at this point, and it's like they know how to capture the essence while also writing things that actors want to play.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting. It's very fun. I suggest everyone watch some of these. Wow. I've gone crazy. Also,
you've been watching.
But the most important thing is the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special is the most beautiful thing I've seen in a very long time.
It was very nice. We very much enjoyed that one. That's the kind of stuff we've been watching. We've been watching. I mean, we watched Andor. We just wrapped that up. We've been watching just anime just to keep that going. There's one called Bocchi the Rock, where it's a very socially inept girl who has no friends, but she's an amazing guitar player, and she falls in with a little band of teenage friends, and they're destined to have rock stardom. And it is fun and it is funny, and they do a lot of weird things, like suddenly it'll go live action for a couple seconds, and they're like claymation or like very just like weird. It's a very interesting anime style, but I mean it's comfort food. What can I say?
Oh yeah, speaking of one of the things I love about Christmas movies, like the TV Christmas movies, is they adhere to, at times they can adhere to no internal or external logic, to where these movies are sometimes predominantly the genre of movie that makes me question reality the most. And so therefore I find them just fascinating and fun. For instance, in CBS's Fit for Christmas, which is about a fitness instructor who fails in New York City, has to go back to her small town of Mistletoe, Montana, and help save the rec center that her dead mom used to have a studio in. And she, of course, has a love-hate relationship with the businessman that's come to town to tear it down, etc. So that's the premise. It is very cookie cutter. It's not great. But she's like, we have to raise $80,000 to save the rec center. How are we going to do this? And then it hits her. She's like, I know. We'll have the longest kick line ever in Mistletoe all the way down Main Street, and we can live stream it, and people can donate money to our kick line. Literally like a Rockette style kick line. And at that point, I just like, and everyone in the movie is like, that's a great idea. It'll be the longest kick. I'm like, and so this is one of those moments I just treasure in these movies, because it's like, that's not a thing. Why does she think that'll work? Why are people going to donate money to a kick line? Why isn't it was just like, this is amazing. And then
I have met several fitness instructors, and I'm friends with some, and some of them are amazing people, and other people are definitely, hey, I have a great idea. A kick line will raise $80,000 kind of people. So that's like, it rings true, if you will.
Oh my God. Yeah. So like moments like that. And also the Dolly Parton Christmas special that aired this week, Mountain Magic Christmas, which is, I'll just say, at one point, Dolly Parton fights Satan. So
Brett, she's doing that every day. She's doing that every day for us.
It is so good. It is so good. It's so good. But on the front of, I had a comment. So getting back on whatever. Jason Van Slyke, listener of the pod, watcher of the pod in this case, because on YouTube he commented, I could listen to Ethan and Brett talk music all day, chatting television and the Misfits. Love it. Which is, you're wearing a Misfits shirt. So boom.
I think I was wearing this Misfits shirt before.
It was on the Abbott and Costello episode.
It must have been the same shirt. It rotates. I have two Misfit shirts. I like the Misfits. I've seen them twice. Once at Madison Square Garden where I was third row.
Sounds terrifying. Moshing?
It was amazing, and I absolutely loved it. Best moment of the night was the people are crowd surfing over, and there's a girl in a wheelchair that they are crowd surfing over to the front. So it's heavy, and she's having kind of a hard time steadying herself.
Yeah, it's a wheelchair.
And Jerry Only, the bass player for the Misfits, sees this happening, takes his bass. This is Madison Square Garden, the biggest venue in New York City.
Yeah.
And he brings his bass over and he stretches it out into the crowd so she can steady herself. And she's holding onto the bass, and she gets up to the front where the security guards got her, and he lets the bass go and just lets her keep the bass.
Oh man.
He had just been playing. So I've met Jerry Only. He is the nicest effing dude in the world. He's such a nice dude.
Man. Whereas yeah, I just been listening to Carly Rae Jepsen's The Loneliest Time, her new album, which is fantastic.
Well, thank you for the feedback, and I'm glad you like us, Misfits.
Yes. But speaking of Misfits, there's a real misfit today. This week, we're traveling to December 19th, 1954. The Country Girl ruled the box office. Mr. Sandman by the Chordettes topped the charts, and CBS aired the Father Knows Best episode, Christmas Story. Ethan, you must have seen Christmas Story before today, and I'm talking about the Father Knows Best episode, not the feature film.
I'd never seen Father Knows Best. I didn't even know it was like available. I thought it was just one of those like mythical television.
No.
Like the 2 episodes of Life of Riley that are on Tubi.
Yeah, it's all available on Peacock and literally anywhere. I think it's on Tubi. It's probably popping up everywhere.
It's 203 episodes across 6 seasons. So it's massive. And like the main characters were this family, and
the Andersons.
The Andersons, as you can imagine, it is 1950s hokey family.
It has the title that is the quintessential 1950s TV show title, Father Knows Best. And it's like, Jesus Christ.
Let's rewind a couple years, because this was originally, like so many other things, like Riley, like Abbott and Costello, it was a radio show.
Like I Love Lucy and My Favorite Husband.
So it was a radio show from 1949 to 1954. The only character, the only person that was part of it was Robert Young, who plays the dad, Jim Anderson. They said, let's do a pilot. So he did a pilot as part of the 1954 Ford Television Theater did a special called "Keep It in the Family," which is even a weirder title. That did well enough that they sold it as a series, completely different cast except for Robert Young. So it's Robert Young's whole thing. The difference between the two, and this is something that Wikipedia said, and I'm kind of like, I read a little bit more into it, was that the radio show was more of a comedy. It had to catch people's attention, and it was jokier, and it was a comedy. Like
a lot of crap falling out of closets.
So that kind of stuff. Good radio days. And then when it went to TV, Robert Young really said, I'd like it to be more about relationships and the family and less about the comedy. So the episode that we saw, The Christmas Story, is a very mild episode. It is not a laugh riot. No one has, there's no goofy great character. But I will say, I absolutely loved this episode.
I've seen a couple of Father Knows Best episodes, and have we done it on the podcast? It is one of these weird shows that like it exists. It kind of goes in one ear out the other with me. But yeah, I mean, I never watched it until probably for this podcast or like, more recent times when I discovered that it was on various streaming services. So I have no affection for it. Does Robert Young have any Disney connections?
Yes, he does. He was in I'm gonna forget it now. But he does have Disney connections, because he did do a couple films for them. Uh
Uh,
I will look this up and I will find it. I think. I thought he did. I thought he did some Disney things.
I feel like he has something else that you're like, oh yeah, he was in that. What? Oh well, he was Marcus Welby, MD. Okay,
That was the
so you
big
know,
thing. He was in Marcus Welby, MD. I
yeah.
guess he wasn't a Disney thing. I mean, he lived until fairly recently. Like he died in 1998,
Oh yeah.
which is pretty amazing. The whole thing, the cast for Fathers Knows Best was a lot of contract players from studios. So
Ah,
Robert Young was an MGM contract player. Jane Wyatt, who played his wife, was a Universal contract player. Um, the character Nick, played by Wallace Ford, he was an MGM contract player. These guys in the 1940s, they would do like 6 to 8 movies a year, these
yeah.
pictures, and you couldn't argue with what they're just saying you're doing this one, you're doing this one, you're doing this one. The studios controlled your careers. So Robert Young has dozens of films that he did, like tons of them.
And
um
most of them are probably like
yeah,
great.
most of those films are lost. You might be able to find
Yeah.
not even lost, but like they're not streaming, they're not on DVD. Someone might have taped it off of the television and is selling the DVDs, like home like burned DVDs. But there's so many of them that they just cranked out. You'd film it over the course of 2-3 weeks. A lot of guys in boxy suits, and that buys.
Was the 50s. Well, we're gonna have oh yeah, so I'll go on it. This week on Must Have Seen TV, we're talking about the Father Knows Best episode, Christmas Story. It is the 12th episode of season 1, or also like the 12th episode of season 5, which we'll get to in a second, and was written by Roswell Rogers and Paul West and directed by William D. Russell. Here's how Peacock describes the episode. Jim is disappointed by his family's attitude towards Christmas and decides to do something about it. Ethan, how accurate is that description?
I mean, it's like, it's like saying the book of Genesis is about a boat. It's like there's
Yeah.
so much more to it.
You don't even mention Nick. What in the world? So we watched different versions of this episode. If you watch the season 1 version,
I watched the season 1 version on Freebie.
yeah, I accidentally watched the season 5 one, which I thought I was watching a season 1 one. So there is in this story, well, okay. In the season 5 one, it opens up with them decorating the Christmas tree and then talking about 4 years ago, that was the best Christmas we ever had.
Oh
and they
my
all talk
God.
about it. And so I'm watching it and I'm like, oh, I didn't remember this episode being like, one of those like let's reminisce about something that happened before the series started kind of things. And then I was like, wait, but do the kids look younger? And I was like, well, no, Bud doesn't really look younger. But I was like, no, but the Kathy, the littlest girl, is definitely like, why? How did they make them 4 years different? And then it wasn't until after it was over that I realized I was in season 5 and that this is a season 1 episode and they were just doubling up on. So in that episode, it starts with them decorating the Christmas tree. I'm gonna see if actually anything happens. The daughter's playing with a bear. Does Oh no, yours might not end with the bear coming to life.
The bear did not come to life.
Okay,
Ladies
yes.
and gentlemen, we did not see the same episode.
Yeah, so the beginning, so the one I saw, because then you'll have to guide us through to get us to the meat of this episode because the beginnings are different, is the family's just decorating the tree, putting tinsel, all that. The daughter is playing with the bear that I believe Nick ends up giving her. We'll get to him later. And then so like the way they get into it is the dad comes in and they start talking about like the year that Bud got a job at Big Steve's used car lot, and he was and we all thought that we heard carolers, and then it goes into the episode as you saw it.
Yeah. So the way that we saw it was the mom, Jane Margaret, and the dad are wrapping some presents, and there's so many presents that she has to give that he is getting upset that the whole holiday is just about giving and receiving presents. It is tried and true, and it is still true today as it was in
This
1954.
So I gotta put a pin because we gotta talk about this, and it drives me. This is a conservative talking point. This is the whole. So first of all, the notion that Christmas has become commercial. This is 1954, and people are already saying Christmas has gotten too commercial. It's not about, got to get to the real meaning of Christmas. There are Christmas episodes that will air this year that are about the exact same thing. And this is also the exact same point that I like to make about the war on Christmas and why do we have to say happy hot like that bullshit. So for work, because in the Santa Clauses, Tim Allen's new sitcom on Disney Plus, he plays his Santa Claus character and he says as Santa Claus, and suddenly you can't even say Merry Christmas anymore, which made me lose my mind because this episode is set in 2022. It is the year 2022. This is not a sudden thing. We have been saying happy holidays at Christmas for literally, and I found a newspaper article that proves it since 1990 at the latest. So for 32 years, someone wrote into a newspaper in 1990 and was like, I'm sick. Where's the Christ in Christmas? I'm so sick of this happy holiday stuff. 1990. This did not just happen. This is not AOC demanding that we it drives me crazy. These cyclical Christmas ideas that when you watch an episode like this, you're like, this has been a concept for 70 years.
Just about the keep the Christ in Christmas. I'm in awe of people who put that bumper sticker on their car or because that is like a seasonal stance. But
oh yeah.
Putting that on your car is a year-round thing. That means that is your number one priority because you put it on your vehicle. And that means it is the number one thing that you think about when you look
at how I start my day, Christ and Christmas. I don't care if it's June. It just drives me up the wall because you know that if you went to any of these evangelical Christians and wished them a happy Hanukkah, they would lose their shit. And it's like, that is the point. That is the same point. That is why we say happy holidays, you idiots. Anyway.
Exactly. Not everyone. There are many people on this call who celebrate Christmas with family, but do not celebrate it for the religious reasons.
I don't celebrate it for the religious reasons because Christmas there's a reason that there aren't really secular Easter isn't really a thing because there's the bunny and some eggs, but it's really about Jesus. Secular Christmas is fully I don't know, 2/3 of Christmas. You have the Jesus pillar, you have the Santa pillar, and you have the Victorian England pillar. And these are what Christmas is built upon. And it just drives me up. Also the fact that when you say happy holidays, you are talking about Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, New Year's Day, Christmas. We have a lot of holidays back to back to back to back to back. So it's also just technically the correct thing to say. Anyway, he's complaining about Christmas these days 70 years ago.
70 years ago, he was complaining about Christmas these days. So to take it to the next level, the daughter, Betty, Princess, that's her name. Her name is, she's called Princess. Is talking about this whole scam that she has with her boyfriend, that she is going to claim that he is late and make him think of wristwatches, and that means that he is going to try to get her a wristwatch she has her eye on, and then she's gonna call her girlfriend to put the idea into this guy's there goes my light. Put it into this guy's head that she should really get her this watch. So it's there again, commercial. They're grumbling about it, and then they hear maybe this is where you started.
Yeah, the carolers, because they like, oh, carolers, and then the husband, Jim and Margaret rush outside to where they see a. It looks kind of like a PT Cruiser with two big like speaker like horns on top of it.
Yeah, it must have been a thing. Hold on a second, I need to grab something. That must have been a thing back in the day, like these cars that would go along with just announcing things, because you don't see it anymore.
Yeah, like they're driving along, like trying to get attention to draw people to go to the used car lot, and they're making $1 an hour. So,
yeah. So that the job that he has lasts. Sorry, the fact that they reminisce about him having the job. He had the job for like 30 seconds.
Yeah. Well, there's a moment. So like, this is where I started getting the evidence of like they're materialistic. So God, one of the kids says like what selling stuff is like what Christmas is all about. And Robert Young, as an actor, whips around so fast and glares at his child. And I was like, wow, he's really touchy. And then like the younger daughter wants a purple tree, the older daughter wants a pink tree. And this is a trope of 50s, 60s, maybe even 70s sitcom episodes of like the color tree, the white tree, the aluminum tree being a sign that you are morally bankrupt and should be in jail.
Think about it though. A purple tree from 1954 would cost as much as a house these days. Like those vintage trees like that, if it's in great condition, you are making a mint if you have one of those in your attic.
Like, it's very like the Charlie Brown Christmas special is very like, go get one of them aluminum trees, Charlie Brown. I didn't know they made green wooden trees anymore. So the fact, this is 1954. This is 8 years earlier. They're doing that.
So Robert Young, Jim Anderson, gets it in his head that they need to do something like an old-fashioned Christmas. They need to go up on the mountain and chop down their own Christmas tree.
It is wild because that is such a home improvement plot that like it is such fodder for like a hilarious episode. Like
does improvement get stuck in the snow too?
The what? Oh,
it's like the same episode just done with home improvement.
I mean, it could have been.
It could have been.
Yeah, because like this is that same like dad gets a harebrained idea on Christmas Eve when like the daughter has a party to go to and like everyone's like, what are you doing? But what's funny is like it is not played for laughs at all. It is serious. Like the entire episode, nothing is played for laughs, which is fine. It's a good episode.
There's like 5-minute long sequences where no one laughs.
There's no joke at all, and it's
it's just. But I think it was fascinating to watch, to see. This is like sitcoms crawling out of the primordial ooze of radio.
Yeah.
And the other shows that were happening at the time were these, it would be like Ford television. We'd have like
General Electric Theater, your Schitt's Playhouse, and
this one was sponsored by Lorillard cigarettes. And then Scott Paper, and then Lever Brothers, which became Unilever. But they were they do like big things for the sponsors. They would be half an hour to an hour technically of a play.
Yeah,
it would be a play adapted for television, teleplay. That's where we get shows like Twilight Zone and Outer Limits, Love American Style, where it's these.
Your anthology, your episodic anthology, as opposed to season anthologies, which are in vogue now. This episode also has the kind of plotline that happens all the time in old sitcoms that I don't know if this is actually a thing, but either buying or putting up your Christmas tree on Christmas Eve, which seems insane to me. Was that a thing? I need to look that up.
Like, that's a good question. Like,
no, I guess if you do the 12
stuff to do,
it's like you, but right? Like, and also, so we'll get like the amount of work it takes. This also happens in like the Garfield Christmas special, which is from 87. So, but they put up the tree on Christmas Eve as like a family thing. And it's like, this is so much work. And you're going to enjoy it for a day or maybe the 12 days of Christmas. I don't know. But like, hey, ours is already up and we've been enjoying it for a week now. So
we just got ours. We just got ours, and we haven't put it up because we're going away for a little bit, and we don't want the cats to like tear it apart.
Oh, because cats love doing it.
Cats will. I mean, did you know that you should take, according to Catholicism, you should take down your Christmas tree on January 7th.
Yeah, that's 12 days of Christmas. That's what Seb says.
The days start on December 25th and last through Epiphany, and then you toss the tree.
Yeah, I'm Southern Baptist. We don't know anything about that. And also, we have fake trees.
I don't know if it's a hard and fast rule. I think it's there. It just has a little bit of it gives you a little bit of a shelf life. It gives you the 12 days. But yeah, like, spending all that money, we're going to keep ours up until maybe Groundhog Day. I don't know.
Oh no, yeah, we end up doing that, and it makes me depressed. That's another thing. There is actually one kind of joke right here where like the paper said it was going to snow, and then Jim says like there's not a cloud in the sky, and then it smash cuts to just like snow everywhere. snow, and I was like, oh, that's funny. So like they hit a snowdrift, and now they are stuck in the snow on Christmas Eve, and they find, what do they find? It's called the Sunny Pines Lodge, but it's also kind of like a gas station. Like there's like stuff in it.
It's like a general store that has like a bedroom.
Yeah, like an apart. Yeah,
because they have signs saying ice. There's when they go inside, there's a counter with supplies and hunting equipment, and so I think it's more like a general store kind of place that has a tiny little room in the back for the proprietor to sleep in.
Yeah, and it has a phone. Phone is dead. We are now in full horror movie territory.
I also noticed though, on the way up, they were driving up, Mom sat in the back, which is something my family never did. No matter how big I was, Mom sat in the front.
Always. Yeah, because Bud is up front, and then it's Mom and the dog. Ew. Father knows best. Father rides up front with son.
0 seatbelts. They might not have been a thing then, but I noticed.
No, yeah. I mean, my dad, when I was a kid, my dad had a, like, I guess it was probably a 70s Volkswagen Bug. And there were no seatbelts. I think the driver had a seatbelt. Everyone else just had the little hand holding things. It's just like, hold on. So they get there, the phone is dead, and then they realize, oh, somebody's living here.
Let's jump it back for a second. They got in because Dad had an axe that he was going to chop a tree down, and he went up to this lodge that was boarded up, and he took the axe and he took down those boards.
Oh yeah, he just they play off a lot in this episode as if there's nothing odd going on, and it's so like they realize, oh, someone's living here. There's coffee in this cup. There's still oatmeal in the pot. And then who comes through the door but a big burly man holding a rifle?
His name is Nick, and he is played by character actor Wallace Ford. Wallace Ford was an MGM contract player. His big role that you probably remember him from, he was in the movie Freaks, the Todd Browning film.
Wow.
But his is a rags to riches story that involves a bizarre way he got his name. Let me tell you this little tale.
How he got the name Wallace Ford?
How he got the name Wallace Ford.
Did he kill the real Wallace Ford?
His real name is Samuel James Jones Grundy. He grew up in England, and he was an orphan and abused by multiple families over multiple years, as he was used as a slave. I hate to use that word, but that's how he is described in his biography.
Oh my God.
At the age of 11, he escaped and joined the theater, doing family, like, small acts with kids on the stage. That was going so well, he snuck aboard a ship with his friend Wallace Ford, came to the United States. They became hobos and rode rail, and Wallace Ford got crushed by a train car, and Samuel Jones Grundy decided to steal his name. Took his name.
I mean, like, this is like a Don Draper, Dick Whitman kind of thing. Like, did he also like take a social security number and like assume?
I don't.
Wait,
So
we didn't have social security numbers back then.
No, not then.
God.
So, and then he's just kept working in the theater. He did, and he just kind of like kept getting better roles until he got a contract part with MGM and did a whole bunch of movies for them. So it's kind of like a rags to riches story. He died in 1966, and he was in 166 movies and television shows.
Jeez, now you can't tell me that might not be Nick's story too, because I mean, it could be.
Nick is the most real character in all of this. So there's this hesitancy where you don't know, is he going to snap? Is he going to hurt somebody?
Yeah,
there's this man, he's got a gun, his eyes are a little wild, he's very unshaven like I am.
But well, he's basically like he's Santa Claus. Like that is kind of like he's a jolly, if unsettling old man with like a big white beard. He's got a great head of hair. When he takes off that, he's got like a nice head of hair. I was like, oh, that's like some good like Ryder Strong hair or something. Like some good early 90s floppy hair.
He's this character that reminded me a lot of Clarence the Angel from It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah, and so like this is a horror movie premise, 100%. Like this is like the scary ghost stories part of It's the Most Wonderful Time of the Year, where it's like Andy Gibb? No. Andy Williams. I was like, Andy Williams, why are you singing about scary ghost stories? That's not part of Christmas. And then you watch this episode and you're like, okay, yes, this is scary. And it's not a ghost, but so he over and over and over and over and over throughout the episode, there are moments where like he connects with them on this human level. Like the kids are like, if we don't get home, we're not going to have a Christmas. And then he says, well, it's Christmas up here too. And then he's like, I'm gonna get you, like, he's just so giving, and like, I'm gonna get you guys we have groceries, go over there. It's very, but it's all, yeah.
There's a couple lines here that are just so well written that I'm like, this is obviously someone who has written for film, because it's like this. There's a part where he talks about like, he was like, being a good Boy Scout means being prepared. And Kitty, the youngest daughter, says, "Are you a Boy Scout?" And he kneels down next to her, and the music's going, and he goes, "Tonight, I'm everybody. I'm a man. I'm a little boy. I'm a father. I'm an uncle. I'm a friend. I'm a stranger. But tonight, I'm rich because you're here, because you're my friend, and I own tonight." What? That's poetry. It's so good.
Yeah. Well, like, and earlier before that, he sits like, okay, first of all, he's like showing Bud how to like clean a rifle. So there's like a lot of rifles in the place. So it's also like this could turn real quick. But he like looks Bud in the he's like, no, tomorrow we're gonna go out and we're gonna shoot a big honking goose. He's like, he looks Bud in the eyes and he said, have you ever smelled the aroma of wild onions stuffed inside a brook trout simmering over an open fire? And I was like, oh no. And then Bud's like literally like licking his lips. It's wild. And well, he's like, his name is Nick. I'm old Nick. We're old man. A name is just a label, and I'm more than a label. It's like, okay.
He's the character that I am absolutely completely fond of and completely enamored by, and it's yes, it's a little over the top, but he never plays it over the top. He's just very his acting chops are so good.
Yeah.
Weariness, that he's lonely, and these people have entered his life, and even though like life has kind of like brought him down, he is going to do his damnedest. And I am just in awe of how good Wallace Ford, Samuel Jones Grundy, did with this.
Well, and like the little girl is pulling a full Stephanie Tanner and is like, Santa's not going to know where we are because we are not at home, so he's not going to come. And then, but he like, knows exactly what to say to like comfort her. He like, and then he like shakes her hand because, which is also so like he doesn't go in like he knows I'm gonna show her the respect, like shake my hand, like
Yeah.
I scouts on like it isn't like a hug or any. It's like this. It's such a cool little choice. And then when it comes time to say grace, like they all get the dinner together, and it's like say it. Basically, like Jim is like, now we don't always say grace, but and then Nick just knows, starts praying right there, like doesn't even don't have to ask it. It's like, what is happening? And then he thanks God for them being guided to him, and then also hopes that the Lord has a Merry Christmas.
Like it is when you say I know you're gonna ask me, should other people see this episode? And my resounding answer is going to be 1,000 times yes. This
Yeah,
this makes you feel the same way that It's a Wonderful Life makes you feel. It's
yeah,
the end of White Christmas where the general walks into the room and everyone salutes him. You get choked up.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and because he promises the little daughter, Kathy, Kitty, Kate, he promises her, he's like, well, you go to bed. A great big Christmas tree is gonna sprout up from right over there, and we're gonna have a Christmas. So she goes to bed, and then like Jim and Margaret are like in another room and being like, yeah, what is up with this guy? Like, it's the only time where they're kind of like, so this is kind of weird. But then
Yeah.
they hear a rustling and they look, and then Bud and Nick have gone out and gotten a huge tree, great tree. They start making decorations.
Yep. They
Like,
make
it's just like,
popcorn strings. I saw them all up.
yeah. And it's like, oh, okay. Now, there also he says at this moment, like Jim asks him, like, oh, how long have you lived here? And he says that, well, if you count like the hills and the trees before this, I've been here since God made them. And it's like, what the fuck? So
It's
like
a little weird.
spoiler,
Fine.
well, like so it's like, so spoiler alert, he's not Santa, but like at this point you're like, I think the show is going to say Santa is real. Like, because things like that are like, that's magic talking.
So he gets in his head because the tree is up. It's Christmas Eve. The tree is up, and he has to get gifts for the kids.
Yes.
He goes around Nick. This is Nick, not the dad. Dad's just sitting there like a goon.
Dad has also admitted that he fucked up. Dad
Yeah.
actually says the kids know that I messed up their Christmas. So we also got the one episode where father didn't know best.
He wrecked their car in a snowdrift.
Yeah.
So Nick is going around, and the two gifts that he gets from this general store are a teddy bear and a gun. And he's kind of like cleaning the gun, and you see him he's writing something down on the counter. He has a little piece of paper. He's writing something.
And then behind him, you see a face looks in.
A face looks in.
And I wrote in my notes, who is this Cyril Karn looking motherfucker?
His name is
an Andor reference.
His name is William Traylor, playing the character of Les Turner. William Traylor was an old-timey actor, but I know he did a role in Buckaroo Banzai.
Yeah.
Anyway,
he's a ranger. He's not a member of the Primor security force, and he's not responsible for the Empire arriving on Ferrix. But same energy at first. He comes in, and like Nick, this is also so well played too, because doesn't Nick ask Les like, oh, do you need me to go help you check on that deer herd? Which, like, there's no deer herd, but he's just like, don't blow my cover, dude.
Yeah, and Les sees exactly what's happening, and the Anderson family kind of catches him up, and Jim looks at Nick's little list and gets it in his head that Nick is a vagrant who is living on the mountain. It has gotten very cold. He has come to the lodge where he has some warmth. He has a bed. The lodge is shut down for the winter. And Nick has just been doing all this out of the kindness of his heart, and they're faced with a dilemma. Do they blow his cover,
Well,
And
and then Jim like finds a list, and he's like, he notes that Nick has written down everything that he has taken from Dan Crowley, who's the owner of the lodge. They find his name. He's like taken a list of like all the stuff he's used and like the price, and with it's like Nick is doing that because he in his head is like, I'm gonna pay this man back. It's not right to steal, so I'm definitely gonna pay him back. But and then like Les is like, I mean, he does that even though like he knows deep down he can't pay him back, but it just makes him like feel better to just sign his name to like, and it's like, oh god,
heartwarming. And there's a great line where the Ranger and Nick have walked out, and the Ranger's bringing him back in to kind of say goodbye to the family, and he says something like, "Don't you get all lonesome up here?" And
oh
Nick
yeah,
says this line, "Being alone ain't what makes a man lonesome. Sometimes you just want more." I was like, oh, that turn of phrase. Sometimes you just
yeah.
want more. Not where I was expecting the line to go, but I'm like, oh, that's a good
Well,
line.
it's like, and well, so like he's also while Les is talking to Jim and Margaret, he's in the back like packing up his shit in a big sack,
Yeah.
and he's like, he goes outside. Does he go outside to get away? Where outside also there is a deer and a one horse open sleigh. Like there is a whole Santa setup out there waiting for him to get
Yeah.
away, and that is what Kathy, Kitty, whatever her name is, she like wakes up and she sees, and she's like, "It's Santa! Oh my god!" Which, hey, like I understand why you think that's Santa because it is a large bearded man with a sack walking towards a sleigh and a reindeer. And so then like she runs outside to talk to her parents, but then Les is outside with Nick, and then he also like Les is like, you knew you were going to give yourself up. You lit the fire. I could see from the chimney. I could see the lights. Like, why did you do that? And Nick says like, well, you take chances when you're lonely.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's heartwarming. So Les does the right thing, and he walks him back with the understanding that he's not going to rat on him. And Kitty sees him come in, and she says, "Oh, Nick, I saw Santa Claus. Santa Claus did come." And I don't know if you noticed
oh,
this.
that was yeah.
Nick
He's
had
holding the sack,
this big
and
sack of
Les,
all possessions, and Les, as she's talking excitedly, Les just quietly and unobtrusively gets the bag and moves it to the other room, so not to spoil her
yeah,
impression that she saw Santa.
good little bit of business there. I love that. Uh, okay, and so then she says, oh, I feel shivery inside, and Dad is like, oh, Dad does as well. And then that is where my episode ends before we get to my coda. What happens in your version?
That's it.
Oh, it just ends right
Yeah,
there.
credits roll.
Okay, so 4 years later, so they're all the family's like, oh, we never saw or heard from Nick again, and Kathy's like, well, I have, and she's over there playing tea party with the bear that Nick gave her, and then like he was like, oh yeah, she's like, yeah, it was just like maybe like a year or something after, and then it flashes back to her having tea with the bear that Nick gave her, and then via voiceover, I guess our man Nick says like, I wish I'd actually written down it word for word because I didn't know that this was a new thing, but he says like he wouldn't have missed this Christmas for anyone. And then she's like, "Are you really a bear?" And he's like, "I'm whatever you want to be if you just believe hard enough." And then the bear winks at her like that, and then it ends. So basically, it's like the bear that Nick gave her is sentient, or she's just like lost her mind a little bit about the bear and is like imagining the bear talk to her with Nick's voice.
Or Nick died and he possessed the bear.
Yeah. So I like that the episode as it was originally presented is like, there's no magic here. He's not actually Santa Claus. He's a vagrant. And then 4 years later, they're like, oh, but the bear that he gave her definitely talks or like definitely has is very strange.
Makes no sense. That makes no sense.
But I do understand them. Like, well, if we're revisiting this iconic episode, then we got to give them something new.
It is like it is one hell of an episode.
Yeah. Now I know why I rated it a 4 out of 5 on my database.
Yeah.
Are you ready? Ready
Yeah.
for some must-have facts about this? I have a couple, not really many. I don't know. Oh God, no, I don't know how many people watch this because I forgot to look that up. But also, it was not in the top 30 for season 1, so like, it wasn't a big hit initially.
The show wasn't a big hit. CBS dropped it after the first season. NBC picked it up for another 2 or 3, and then they dropped it, and CBS ran it for the last 2 or 3.
Yeah, so yeah, just hot potato. The top 5 shows. The top 5 shows of this season, where number 5 was Toast of the Town, 4 was You Bet Your Life, 3 was Dragnet, 2 was the Jackie Gleason Show, and number 1 was, of course, I Love Lucy. And it is just, I think every time we talk about 1950s TV show, I'm always like, it is so wild to compare any of these to I Love Lucy. I Love Lucy is still kinetic, frenetic, funny today, like smart, quick. Yeah. And then it was airing alongside this stuff.
This stuff does not hold a candle comedically to I Love Lucy. But I think I think that the way they took a very, very simple premise, we're snowed in at I wonder if this is the first snowed in episode.
I mean, it could be 1954. There aren't that many Christmas episodes before this one. Like it is, it's the book that I want to write.
But it does a lot. It does what it does really, really well. And there's not a lot going on. Actually, once they get to the cabin, there's a lot of like really good stuff that everyone is off. Like it's well written. The Roswell Rogers, the writer, wrote 103 episodes of the series. So the director, William D. Russell, directed 64 episodes of the show. So these are people who stuck with Father Knows Best through
all the network jumps. Yeah. So the CBS Sunday lineup that this aired as a part of was Lassie, Private Secretary, then General Electric Theater, then Father Knows Best, and then What's My Line. So it is interesting that it wasn't a big. It's like, I feel like What's My Line had to have been a big show because that's a big. I don't know.
We'll talk about it.
Yeah. So like, what are you watching? I don't have synopses, but on ABC is a quiz show called Break the Bank, which seems kind of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? It's like you have to answer so many questions without missing some, and then Father Knows Best. And then the Loretta Young Show is on NBC, and that was a half-hour episodic anthology drama, which Hayden was on an episode of. I think Just also directed Loretta Young in either some TV plays or her show.
Fun fact though, the house they used for the exteriors is the same house they used for Major Nelson's house in I Dream of Jeannie.
Well,
and it was used in several episodes of Bewitched.
R.I.P. to that house whenever they tear all that down for. Don't even get me started.
But what would I watch between those 3?
Yeah, quiz show, Father Knows Best, or an episodic anthology where you never know what you're gonna get.
Am I allowed to just read Batman comics?
Yeah, probably. Wait, what's going on in Batman in 1954? I mean, that's probably the crazy era, right?
No, this is when he's still just fighting like gangsters all the time and spies.
When does he start? Like, is that like the 60s when he starts like, when things get real wacky?
It is 54. Things do get a little weird in 54. I am pushing it a little bit. You have some like old school. It is getting cut to like the aliens are robbing a bank or like that makes giant dinosaurs or
so Batman number 89 is the December. Cover date February 1955, so therefore December 1954, probably. Featuring Bruce Wayne's Aunt Agatha, and she's saying, "Why, Bruce Wayne? Whatever are you doing in that costume, striking those young men?" And it's she's pulling Batman's cowl off, and yes, there are two goons on the ground, and they're like holding their jaw, and then there's a there's just like a plate glass window that says diamonds, and it's broken. And Robin is behind him. So
I'm looking at it right now. Bruce Wayne's
Agatha.
Agatha. Yeah, it's
Who is Aunt Agatha? Is she an actual thing?
I don't know. I have all the Batman comics on my iPad, and I'm kind of going through them all, but I skipped over a lot of the stuff so I can just start with like the new era,
The good stuff.
the new look. Yeah.
So this is the DC wiki, and so I went to Aunt Agatha's page, and so like it's like here's her history on Earth 2, on New Earth, powers and abilities, cooking. I love that.
So I'm reading Batman comics. What about you?
So I do know that this is a Christmas episode because I did see a newspaper ad advertising this is a Christmas episode. It was a photo of all of them like on the porch or like outside, and it's like they're snowed in. So I'm like, yes, I'm watching this. It's Christmas. Okay. Yes, unless Loretta Young is doing a Christmas episode. So I just realized which episode we're doing for the 1960s next week.
Oh.
We're gonna do Family Affair, and I'm not gonna tell you anything about the episode, but let me just say it's gonna continue the sitcoms with no laughs.
Oh no.
Trend. Get ready. Don't look it up. But that just hit me. That's because oh boy. But okay, well, anyway, that just hit me out of nowhere. Who had on IMDb, 70 users rated this an 8.1 out of 10. Higher, lower on the money?
I'd say on the money.
Yeah, I think that's good.
It's one
70, right?
Like a high water mark for the series as far as IMDb ratings. Like they usually they're between what I saw, like between like 6.6 and like 8 or like high 7s.
Okay, good.
8 is good. I like this one.
Who had the must-see performance?
Oh, dude, it's Nick. It's Nick. It's Wallace Ford. It's the dad and the family are kind of like goofy, white suburban middle class people, which the network thought people could relate to. Of
course.
Great, whatever. I just did air quotes. But Nick there's so much there. These layers of caring and just raw humanity, just
he's like
destroyed, and oh my god,
like when Chris Claremont is writing Wolverine at his best, like that like it's that same level of like grizzled mystery and like quiet selflessness and stoicism. It's in that era. Also, his name is Nick. Like, how is he not Santa Claus? And then most other people see this episode. Yeah, I think if you're watching Christmas episodes this year, this Father Knows Best is literally everywhere, and I think in a lot of free places too. Freevee.
That's where I watched it.
So
and I can't speak to the rest of Father Knows Best. Like if they were all this writing level, like this show is amazing. My guess is that they're more like Leave It to Beaver and not the elevated drama of Christmas Story.
Yes, listeners, I have talked about Father Knows Best before. Episode 82 with Patrick Cotner and Ramsey S. We talked about the episode A Medal for Margaret, which was a season 4 episode. And it was, we read about it because it was nominated for an Emmy for Best Comedy Writing, and it was not actually funny, I don't believe. But anyway, so I was like, okay. But yeah, no, I think the Father Knows Best for 1950s sitcoms, it's like a fine show. I've watched a couple episodes, and it's like, it's a vibe. It's a mood.
You said we should watch this one instead of the season 2 Christmas episode.
Yeah, the Angel's Sweater or something, which I think because when I watched it, it wasn't. It might be one of those that's like listed as a Christmas episode, but like isn't really a Christmas episode, or like the Christmas isn't integral. I can't remember, but I gave it a 2 out of 5 in my big sprawling database of holiday episodes. So that's my guide. But yeah, that I mean, I guess that does it for this episode of Must Have Seen TV.
We
Where
went
can
on
be
a little
oh
long
yeah.
with this one, and that's okay because we had a lot of great things to say. There's a lot of great background, and just catching up after the holidays is pretty good.
And everyone needs to watch Holla at the Holly and Three Wise Men and a Baby on Hallmark. And God, are those it? Yeah, for now. Where can people find you if they want to talk about other people who stole names of the person that died right next to them?
Hit me up on Ethan K55 on Instagram. I am all but deactivated my Twitter account. I was able to download everything that I had written, and I don't know. I'm kind of like on the fence because if someone does kind of quote something that like or sends me a link, I want to be able to go to it and not have to like click through a whole bunch of screens just to see something that they sent me.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to be on Twitter at all, but don't find me on Twitter. Don't look me up. Like it is a hell site. It is garbage, and get rid of it. I absolutely hate it, but I'm keeping it around for functional reasons.
You can find me on Twitter at Brett White. No, I mean, yeah, I'm amazed. I'm glad that it held out for one last Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade, my favorite Twitter day of the year. Who knows what's going to happen next? It is a breeding ground for extremists and Nazi sympathizers. So Twitter is bad. But yeah, find me at Brett White on Twitter and on Instagram, which is where you can find a lot of scams that will get your photos, then get your facial ID recognition. Stop putting your photos in things. Like, every now and then it's like upload your photo to this website and it'll make you look like a Smurf or whatever. And it's like, and then always everyone does it, and then a week later it's like, oh yeah, this site is made by a Russian oligarch, or like it's it's always Russia, and they're always looking for like data mining or whatever. But then also, just by being on the internet, we're all giving our information to everyone anyway. So if you want to look like a Smurf, go do it. Who cares? Doesn't matter. Nothing matters. And that's everything. Yeah, so rate and review this on Apple Podcasts. Watch it on YouTube if you wish. You can also the Barb Hardley Christmas special is coming out. I have one number already up, my Santa Baby number, or her Santa Baby number, I guess, since it is Barb. The whole thing will be out at some point. Listeners, a good old-fashioned Christmas special. I mean, that's probably... Oh, read the words that are at Decider.com, the 30 reviews of Christmas movies I've done. Thanks to Acast for hosting this podcast. Thanks to y'all for listening and watching, potentially. We'll see you next time on Must Have Seen TV.